and welcome to Green Healing, where we discuss alternative and natural healing from abuse, trauma, and CPTSD. Today, I'd like to discuss how to navigate through emotional flashbacks with your partner. It can be a challenging situation for both, especially at the very beginning when emotional flashbacks are very raw and intense. What happens most of the time is that we react towards the trigger, whether the trigger is an object or a person or a situation. We react towards that trigger the way we feel we should have reacted towards our abuser. We have a lot of suppressed emotions because when we were in the abusive situation, we felt either not allowed to express or we were punished when we expressed such emotions. And for various reasons, all of this is bubbling up towards the surface and comes out through an emotional flashbacks because we have not yet learned how to express those emotions in a healthier way. So it translates to a lot of anger, a lot of sadness, a lot of rage most of the time. It's very normal and it's okay, but it can be very challenging and hurtful towards the other person who has our best interest at heart and is not trying to trigger us. What my husband and I did is that we learned nonviolent communication, NVC, which helped us navigate through the expression, especially when these situations occurred. Of course, it helps to recognize an emotional flashback in the other person, in ourselves, learning to communicate things. I think I'm having an emotional flashback, or is it possible that you're having an emotional flashback, as opposed to just being accusatory and in reaction towards each other all the time. Of course, these conversations are important to have after when the flashback has passed, and the first few times will be more challenging than other times. That's a first step. It's important to recognize the different triggers, figure out what causes flashbacks and how we tend to express ourselves and how we want to express ourselves, to then reframe and rephrase. Also for the partner to assess emotions as well as us assess our emotions. This is something that we did even before I knew emotional literacy was a thing back in the day, but I am a strong advocate for emotional literacy. Figuring out exactly how you feel, especially in the moment, really helps. Figuring out your needs. It'll be different for everyone, but your needs within the flashback, your needs after the flashback, and your partner as well. Their needs when you're having a flashback, their needs when they're afterwards, when they're reacting. Sometimes when we express ourselves and it's not in a very healthy way, it can be hurtful towards the other person and also trigger an emotional flashback in them if they've experienced trauma in the past or abuse of any sort. And so we can just be in reaction towards each other continuously. And so it's important to recognize those moments also when we're just in reaction to each other. Take a step back. It can be challenging. I personally tend to need comfort, need reassurance, whereas my husband tends to need more space in those situations. So we had to figure things out, assess our needs, my needs, his needs, and find a compromise. Sometimes it's as simple as saying, I just need space right now. Don't worry. It's nothing bad. Just a simple phrase that we say to each other that help us come back to the moment, that help us be reassured or express a need in a healthy way. So I would suggest, having these conversations, observing, figuring out each other's needs, and especially with the nonviolent communication and with emotional literacy. The other thing that helps a lot is the EFT tapping affirmations. Even if you don't feel like tapping or you feel weird about tapping, the right here and right now, I'm okay. Because right here and right now, I am not in an abusive relationship. Right here and right now, if I am triggered, I am triggered. I am having an emotional flashback, and it's okay. It will pass. But I am not back there in the abusive relationship. And the person who triggered me is not my abuser. And through that affirmation, it brings me back to the present moment, focusing on tangible things around me as well. And also assessing, even though I'm having an emotional flashback or these emotions, if you're the partner, even though I am feeling attacked, even though, because as the partner, you can feel that way and it's okay to feel that way. Even though I truly, deeply, and completely love and accept myself. And another affirmation that helps a lot, tremendously, is I'm open to perceiving this differently. This affirmation has worked miracles for me, honestly. So I I strongly recommend, if you say no other affirmation, well, the two most important affirmations, right here and right now, I'm okay and I'm open to perceiving this differently. It's important to, when calm, after the fact, to analyze what happened, not to be afraid to dive deep. It can be scary to navigate through sometimes, and I understand that the partner might be worried of re-triggering another emotional flashback, and it can cause anxiety in the partner because of all the flashbacks that those of us who have been abused are having. It's important to understand the emotions and the reactions of both. What I find helps a lot in figuring out each other's needs and navigating through the emotions is, when we're sitting and calmly expressing ourselves, is to reframe and rephrase. Sometimes reframing is going back to the past and saying, okay, everything I said to you is what I wanted to say to my abuser. So I'm imagining, not necessarily putting myself back there, but saying, okay, abuser, blah, blah, blah. Everything that I was spewing earlier to this innocent partner, I'm spewing now to you, and we can reenact this. You can reenact this with finger characters. You can reenact this with plushies. You can just reenact this to an imaginary person. But don't pretend that your partner is the abuser, because that's not very healthy for the relationship. And the rephrasing. What you said, the way you expressed it, it was hurtful to me. Or the way you express that tends to trigger this emotional flashback. Let's figure out a way to express this so that I don't get triggered. Or let's figure out a way for me to express this reaction so that I'm not hurting your feelings when I'm in the emotional flashback. And you can explore different things. It'll take a bit of trial and error. I have phrased things dozens of ways before finding a good way to express, a way that respected my needs, expressed what I needed to express when I'm in an emotional flashback, but also respected my husband and was not hurtful towards him. So sometimes it's trial and error. It takes a lot of patience to go through this, but it is possible to get to a point where you know exactly the facial expressions, the body language, the tones of voice. You know exactly what will trigger each other. Or sometimes you'll stop yourself like, oh wait, no, that's going to trigger. Or you rephrase in the middle of saying something. You can recognize each other's cues, know how to reassure each other in the moment, and know how to assess each other's emotions and needs in the moment in a way that's very healthy, not only for your healing, your partner's healing, but for the relationship in itself, for the growth and evolution of the relationship. Rephrasing also sometimes can be afterwards, not necessarily in the moment, but sometimes in the moment, say, can you, that's triggering to me. Can you please rephrase that? It's important not to be too accusatory, but to figure out. Everybody's needs and emotions will be different, and different emotional flashbacks will garner different reactions and different responses. So the rephrasing definitely helps for that as well. And for afterwards, when rephrasing, you can explore different ways of rephrasing, and you can, if it was a reaction to each other and that you hurt each other, you can explore rephrasing. So you might ask your partner to rephrase something. They might ask you to rephrase something. And both of you are exploring this rephrasing, which is a healthy way to explore the expression of emotions in a healthy, boundaried way that will help your healing, their healing, because they might be going through stuff also, and will help the relationship as a whole. So I hope this episode was beneficial to you, if it is. I am not a professional, I'm not a therapist, but I do have 10 years of experience navigating through emotional flashbacks with my husband. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask away. I will answer to the best of my abilities, but it's not professional advice. Just keep that in mind. If you'd like to support green healing, there is the Elements healing music with singing bowl, and there's also merchandise. Right now, just t-shirts, but if you have ideas of other merchandise that you would like to see, don't hesitate to let me know. If you're watching this on YouTube, thank you for watching. If you're listening on the audio podcast form, thank you for listening. And remember, empower yourself and be emotionally free.